Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. This will be a full spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. No spoilers on there if you want to check that out. I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5. It sounds a little harsh, but it just wasn't really doing it for me. Maybe the final act it picked up a little bit, but then it just didn't stick the landing, and it just wasn't that great of an experience. When the original came out, I remember liking it a lot at the time. I've more or less forgotten about it since then. A couple scenes, I still kind of remember, but it's just not like my top movies from that era. It's like, it was good at the time, but it's not like a Ghostbusters or like a Star Wars, or I'm like, yeah, that was one of the greatest movies. It was good at the time. So I wasn't excited one way or another going in this one. So it's not like I even had my hopes up. I wasn't like, I can't wait to see Beetlejuice again. I'm like, let's just see what this is about. And let's see. I think one of the first problems is it feels like there's at least 3 movies happening here. It's like they had 3 different ideas for like a sequel, and then they're all this here, and it just doesn't work. And also just the way that even the trailers were portraying everything. It kind of looked like they go back to this house. You have Astrid accidentally summons Beetlejuice, and all hell breaks loose basically. Instead, we got, I'll call it the A plot. This is basically about basically got the stuff with basically Lydia and Beetlejuice, and it's a little bit hollow. There's not that many interactions between the two of them. You got him kind of messing with her early on in the film. He doesn't make the quick brief appearance after Rory summons him, but then he's gone for a good chunk again. And then when she finally does have to summon him, there's not a lot to it. They kind of work together for like a couple minutes, then he just ditches her, and he goes one way, she goes the other way. And then he dovetails back at the end where he does finally try to get his his wedding. It doesn't. On paper, it's what the movie should be, but in reality, it doesn't land for some reason. And then you have the secondary plot, which is basically Astrid's stuff, which it says it's basically mostly separate from the whole Beetlejuice portion of the film. Like, I thought a lot of it would be Beetlejuice setting his eyes on her, Lydia's daughter, where it's nothing like that. Her plot, basically, she's riding a bike. She meets this cute boy. They hit it off. Come to find out, he's a ghost. He says he could help her see the ghost of her father, so she agrees, and it turns out he's actually a murderer, and he's trying to use her to get back to real life, which is a weird kind of remix of Beetlejuice's story, where Beetlejuice needed to marry a mortal, and he come back to the life, where this kid, he has a trick where you could switch a soul with a living person and come back to life. Apparently there's a whole bunch of different loopholes that are coming back to the land of the living. Beetlejuice preferred the marriage one. It was kind of weird. The early part of this kind of works. Seems like a nice kid. It's telegraphed pretty early on that he's a ghost, and you realize really quickly that he's actually a ghost. The twist that he's actually a murderer and he's evil kind of comes out of nowhere. So that was a little bit of a surprise, and I'll tell you why it wasn't a total surprise in a minute. But just there's no reason why. It doesn't say why did he murder his parents? Why is he trying to come back? Is he trying to come back to kill more people? Like, they're leaving some key stuff out that could have made this a little bit more interesting. Instead, he just comes off as like a jerk, I guess. I don't know. And even that just kind of ends abruptly. It's like, he almost wins, and then Lydia's deal with Beetlejuice allows Beetlejuice to take him out of the picture and basically send him to hell, which is fine. It just felt a little, just. If there was more emphasis on that, I think there would have been a little more. It would have hit a little harder, like when Beetlejuice, takes him out. But the reason it didn't work, and I wasn't gonna hold this against the filmmakers at first, and then I realized that yes, I am. There's a lot of similarities in Astrid's story to her storyline, to Jenna Ortega's storyline as Wednesday in the Wednesday Netflix series, and I'm holding it against the the makers of this movie, because Tim Burton was behind the Wednesday series and he's behind Beetlejuice. So it's the same actress. And spoilers for Wednesday, there's a lot of similarities there where she meets a cute boy, she hits it off with him, you know, and it's also some similar character traits in, you know, her character and Esther's character. And then the boy turns out he's like, you know, he's evil essentially. And she also finds this out like immediately after a kiss. So it's a lot of similarities I normally would write off, but the fact that the same people are involved in both, you know, the show and the movie takes it down a notch. It's like, I've seen this story. If you didn't see Wednesday, you'll probably be like, oh, this is all new to me. But if you've seen Wednesday, you're like, oh, okay, they did this already. Before I get to the third movie that's happening within this movie, I also want to point out, if you didn't see the first Beetlejuice, or even you're like me, at least I remember enough of it, but if you don't remember it or if you didn't see it, the movie doesn't really hold your hand and tell you anything about the last movie. There's like a quick line of dialogue that sort of explains it, like about the middle, but it comes so late in the movie, like, why do you care? Like, what is Beetlejuice? Like, Beetlejuice, initially, like, oh, he's just kind of weird dude. Like, you have no reason, like, to fear him or hate him. Like, you don't, your opinion's kind of neutral on him. He just comes off like a jerk a little bit, but why is he scary? Why is, like, you know, why is Lydia want nothing to do with him? Like, you don't get that answer, really. You have to have seen the original to know, you know, why. All right, so anyway, we don't go back to the last part of the story. You get the introduction of Dolores, Beetlejuice's wife. Nice setup. Effects looked a little hokey, but overall it was a cool visual of her putting herself back together. Classic Burton thing. She's got all these stitches or big staples that hold her body together. It doesn't make sense logically, but it looks cool. And they set her up as a threat. She could actually kill the you know, people in the afterlife. So, like, instead of just dying to go in the, you know, this waiting room or the real afterlife, she just takes your soul and you're dead for good. So it's supposed to be scary. And she doesn't really factor into the film very much at all. Like, it was a big setup. Like, all right, this is the big bad. This is what we need to be scared of. And she pops up periodically. The movie really shifts away from her. Sometimes you see her walking in the background trying to find Beetlejuice. You know, kills a couple, you know, ghosts or whatever you want to call them. Then she finally pops up at the end. It's like, this is it. And Beetlejuice has got a few tricks up his sleeve. So it's like, you kind of want to see, like, what his magic or whatever he does versus what she can do. And just nothing happens. She kind of shows up, and then they just somehow manage to get a sandworm and ride it to, or not even ride it, but get a sandworm to come here and take her out, which is basically what happened to Beetlejuice in the first film. So it's just like, that's it. It's like she's just you could have easily taken her out, or there should have been more of Beetlejuice working with them. They have to work together to take her out. Then if they still want to take out Beetlejuice after that, that's fine. But she's just shows up, they take her out in like a minute, and it's like, that's it, really? That's all they're gonna do with this character. So I said, none of it, there was potential in all three of these stories. I was like, all right, I could see where this is going, this could be good. And like, none of them pulled through in the end. And then the ending itself was just kind of anticlimactic. It's like, okay, they stopped him. A little bit of a semi-happy ending, you know, her stepmother goes to, you know, the afterlife and yada yada. And then they did this weird thing where there's like a flash forward and you see Astrid meet a guy, they get married, they have a baby, and it's the baby Beetlejuice from earlier in the film. And that was a dream sequence. And then she wakes up next to Beetlejuice, and that was a dream sequence. Then she just wakes up and kind of ends. It's like, I don't know where you're going with this. And they've already said they have no ideas for like a sequel. So it's like, felt like they're trying to tease, like, oh, Beetlejuice ain't gone, and then it's like, well, who cares? So we're not going to follow up on it. Other than that, the movie itself, it looked fine. I mean, it wasn't anything too new visually that you hadn't seen in the original Beetlejuice. Like I said, the bringing the body parts together of Dolores was pretty cool. Interesting look of when she sucks his soul out, how it's, you know, people just kind of shrink down these little, I don't know what you want to call it, this lifeless husks, but kind of flattened out. They did a few interesting choices. I don't know the name of the actor's name at the top of my head. He was from the first film, and then he basically got busted for being a pedophile, so he hasn't acted since. to work around him not being able to be used, they kill off the character, but they still wanted them in it for some reason, which is kind of weird. So like you see pictures of him. He was a kind of cool claymation sequence, like early in the film. It's just the way it's framed is weird. It's like so kind of like, I don't know, just the way they're telling the story is kind of like, this is weird. But the sequence itself is pretty cool. It's like a claymation stop motion thing. Kind of livens the film up, but it's kind of early in the film when you're just kind of getting your feet, trying to get your feet wet in this universe again. They also spent a little too much time with weird side plots. Like I said, you get this whole thing about Lydia's douchebag, boyfriend, which is fine. And then you got stuff at the house, and they're trying to do this funeral thing. And then you get the afterlife, and you got, I said the character, I can't remember his name. You got him walking around headless doing stuff. You got other characters doing stuff. You got Willem Dafoe's character. He's like this former actor that always played cops, that he's like some kind of cop now in this world. Like he's starting to get more like the infrastructure of this kind of afterlife waiting room, which is not as interesting as they think it is. Like you got janitors, and you got all this other stuff going on, and it's, I don't know, it's Dafoe like is really putting his work into it. He's not phoning it in, but the characters is so pointless. Like it really doesn't. Even when they show up at the end to try to stop Beetlejuice, it's like he just freezes them, and they don't do anything. It's just like, why is this here except to be like quirky? As far as Keaton's portrayal as Beetlejuice himself, it's fine. I watched, after I saw the movie, I went back and watched some clips of the original, and he's just got so much energy in the role. He's like a cartoon character come to life, and then when they throw in like the effects, it really sells. Like he's just not a person. He's like this trickster demon. Like here, it's just he's a bit more toned down. He's not phoning in. He can't bring that energy that he used to. So it's just feels like something's missing. Like he's just not getting out of a certain gear. Like I said, it does pick up a little bit at the end, and the little song and dance at the end. It's not as memorable as the whole song or dance from the original. Because that felt like so much more a part of the plot, and here it's just like, oh, we're just going to do it because he's got to puppet everybody and make them do a song and a dance. I don't know, there's not a ton else I wanted to talk about at the film. I said it was okay. It starts off, like I said, starts off slow, takes a while to get to the point. Then it's like, what is the point? Because it's like, is this the point? Is this the point? Is this the point? And then really kind of none of them are. Didn't think the Soul Train joke was that funny, especially not to have to bring it back a second time. It's like the first time I was like, okay, whatever, and then they had to bring it back again. I was like, all right, it wasn't that funny in the first place. But I guess that's about it. I don't want to go on forever about this movie. A lot of people seem to be liking it, so your opinions are obviously going to vary on this one. But I said earlier, I got a non-spoiler version of this review. I have reviews for other movies, TV shows, a couple video games. I got comic strips, and this is all at soundedbettermyhead.com, so if you want to check any of that out, that's awesome. On that, thanks for watching.